Hello and welcome to the exciting world of the Amiga computer, where your only limits are your imagination and your creativity. My name is Chuck Petropoulos, and I'll be your host for this first in the professional tutorial series for the Amiga. The information is based on my experiences training people on the Amiga. I've tried to make it as simple, practical, and easy to understand as possible, taking you step by step from opening up the boxes, setting up the system, and even finally winning at the wheel with Pat and Vanna. Being the professional series, to ensure professional quality, I hired the prestigious marketing firm of Pitcham, Sellum, and Cheatham to advise me as to the tape design. They recommended using a beautiful young woman to demonstrate the system. I felt this a very sexist point of view, but to be objective, I'm going to leave it up to you, the viewers, to decide. So what you're going to see now are two separate scenes. Wait till they're finished. Vote on the one you feel will be best for the tape. And they are going to roll right now. The voting was so close it's unbelievable that we've decided to keep both of them in the tape for your benefit. One last point before we begin. Some people say tutorial videos can be very boring. Now realize this could never occur here, but if you find too much information to digest at one time, fast forward to the debut of the Amiga TV channel. TV like only the Amiga can produce. Then rewind and review whatever section you need to go over, as this is the advantage of video. Most important, sit back, relax, and get ready to enjoy your Amiga.
The tape is divided into the following sections: system overview, setting up the system, a how-to on the operating system, the 3-disc software set, hints and tips, and finally the debut of the Amiga TV channel. So let's begin with a system overview. Performance of any computer on the market today. It debuted in 1985 with the introduction of the 1000, a 68,000 base system with coprocessor custom chips, affording superior graphics, music, and video capabilities, along with true multitasking. In 1987, the system was upgraded to the 500, offering additional features at lower cost. The kickstart moved to the motherboard and 512K RAM standard. Also introduced was the 2000, offering the Amiga as a true multimedia workstation. It comes with 1 meg RAM standard and the ability to be expanded to almost any application imaginable. One step up from that is the 2000 HD, a 2000 with a 40 megabyte hard drive installed, allowing a lot of storage capabilities on the machine. And finally, the top of the line, the Amiga 2500, offering 3 megabytes of RAM, again with the 40 megabyte hard drive, and a 6830 CPU for advanced applications. If possible, I recommend using either an Amiga 500 with 1 megabyte of RAM and an external disk drive, which is what we'll be using for the tape, or an Amiga 2000 with a second internal disk drive. Even at minimum wage, you'll find it pays for itself very quickly. And finally, you're ready. The boxes are here. You're ready to unpack. You've made your choices. You've chosen your favorite software for the Amiga. And we're ready to begin. If possible, save all boxes and packing in case you have to return any of the equipment. Send in your warranty card to protect yourself, and for updates, double check all parts. If anything is missing, contact your dealer immediately. Yes, it's true. We're finally ready to have the unpacking experience, starting with the 500, which contains the computer, the mouse, the power supply, 2 system operating disks, and the 500 enhancer manuals. We'll be using the C880 external disk drive, along with using the Commodore 1084 monitor, and for quality and convenience, an extremely well-made wooden monitor stand. And to hook it all up, the power director to attach all our electrical connections. We'll start by installing the 1/2 meg memory cartridge. Remove the back panel by inserting a small coin. I'm using the 501 cartridge from Commodore. Insert it into the slot, pushing firmly but gently, then refasten the back panel on top of that. On the rear of the 500 are the various connectors to attach all your devices. Always make sure power is off before attaching any cables. First, we'll install the 5-prong power supply plug. For these illustrations, I will be attaching only one plug at a time to simplify the examples. Next, we'll attach the monitor cable onto the RGB connector. Secure the screws to ensure grounding and safe connections. The cable from here will go into the back of the monitor itself. I'm using a 1084D Commodore monitor. If your monitor differs, follow the instructions that come with it. We begin by first attaching the power supply plug into the back, then attaching the other end of the monitor cable we had just installed onto the back of the 500 into the RGB input. Next, we'll be attaching the audio cable onto the back, which we will later be attaching to the back of the 500. Next, we're going to attach our disk drive cable. Again, securing them with a screwdriver to ensure grounding and safety connections. Next, we'll attach the printer cable into the parallel port in the back, and then attach the other end of that into the printer itself, in this case a Panasonic KXP1124 printer. Again, be sure power is off before attaching any cables to any devices. Next, we're going to attach the stereo audio cables, the Amiga featuring 4-voice stereo sound. Put it into the left and the right. Next, we'll plug the mouse into joystick 1 and into joystick 2, your favorite choice of joysticks, because on the Amiga you can play some real arcade action games, unmatched by any other system. Also on the far right of the 500 is a mono plug outputting a black and white video signal of the computer. This can be hooked up into the back of your monitor into the video input plug, and then on the monitor is a switch in the front switching between the RGB and the composite signal. Try it later on after it's powered up. If you're into music, you can attach a MIDI cable into the back serial connector, allowing you to use any MIDI device that you care to. And finally, we'll be plugging all the equipment into the back of the power director as it is marked on the back. The computer, next the monitor, and then finally the printer connector. And from that point on, we will just be turning the power on. First, turn on the on switch on your power supply. Then next, turn on the power switch on your monitor. And then finally, we're going to turn the power switch on to the printer. These devices now will be controlled through the power director. The advantages of the director are surge protection, ease of use, the ability to discharge the static electricity from your body onto it, and individual on-off switches for each piece of equipment. And finally, it's done. We've assembled the system. We're ready to move on to the next step. To start with, here's our recommended stuff that we're going to need to start. A box of 10 double-sided, double-density, name-brand discs, a mouse pad. Please read the manual. And please count 10 Mississippis, full Mississippis, before turning the equipment back on after you've turned it off. You can label your disk drives to make it easy for yourself, the internal disk drive being called DF0, and the external drive being called DF1. When you first sit down to the unit, touch the power director to discharge any static electricity on your body. Then next you want to power up the system by turning on the master switch, the computer switch, the monitor switch, and the printer switch. The power light will then come on your computer, and you'll see a screen showing a hand holding a workbench disk. When you see that, insert your Workbench 1.3 operating system disk into drive DF0. The disk drive light will go on as the computer reads the information. Before we continue, I'd like to discuss disk care. Set the read-write tab. When you can see through the tab, it means the disk is protected. When the tab is down, you're able to write information onto the tab. Make sure your system disk you can see through the tab. Never touch the metal parts of the disk. Never take the disk out of the disk drive while the light is on. This can destroy data on the disk and even permanently damage the disk itself. Never leave disks or any other computer equipment in direct sunlight. So again, let's review. At the prompt, put in your workbench disk. What will occur then is the computer will begin to read the information from the disk, loading the operating system into the computer. It informs you as to the steps it's performing on screen, as you can see, and takes a few minutes to load until finally your initial screen will show up. If you're using a 500 or a 2000 system, the ART imaging symbol will not appear, as that is a hard drive symbol. In addition, the numbers up top may be smaller on your screen, as these indicate the size of the RAM memory that is on your system. First things first, we want to copy our system disk, format blank disk, install the printer driver to use the printer, set the date and the time, and learn how to reboot or restart the computer off the keyboard. For a OneDrive system, move the pointer by moving the mouse. Place the pointer on top of the picture of the Workbench 1.3 disk called an icon. Press the left mouse button to highlight it, then move the pointer to the upper left corner, pressing down the right mouse button and holding down to access menus. We're going to choose Duplicate, release the button, and a requester box will appear informing us what to do. The source disk is Workbench, so click Continue. It will now start reading the information from the Workbench disk and will inform you when to insert the blank disk that it calls Workbench 1.3. When you've inserted it, click Continue. It will then continue to write the information. This takes 3 separate passes on a OneDrive system. When it's finally finished, it will inform you the disk copy is finished and has created a copy of the Workbench that it's called. The next thing we want to do is rename that. So again, place the pointer on top of the Workbench, copy of Workbench, disk, press the left mouse button once to highlight. Move the pointer up to the upper left corner, holding down the right mouse button. Keeping the right mouse button held down, move it down to rename and release the button. Then you will see the name in a little requester box where you will type in information or delete characters to change that name. So start pressing your delete key as it deletes the information. Very important thing here. A lot of people forget to put the cursor onto the first letter when they rename, and the system does not recognize it. Always put the cursor on the first letter of what you're renaming, as then it will be an exact duplication of the original name. Put the cursor on there, press the return key on your keyboard, and you'll see the copy of the workbench will then be renamed Workbench itself. Then we want to repeat the process for the Extras 1.3 disk. We want to make working copies of the operating system disks and place the originals in a safe, dry place in case the copies are ever damaged. So to duplicate the Extras disk, we place the pointer on top of the disk, pressing once with the left mouse button to highlight, then move the pointer to the upper left corner of the screen, pressing down the right mouse button and holding, moving down the menu choices until we come to duplicate. The difference here being to request the Workbench disk and then request the Extras disk, and the process continues as we did before. The 2-drive copy is much faster and easier. First we'll take our blank disk, again name brand double-sided double density. We're going to attach a label to that. First we'll peel the label off. Attach it to it, then label it copy of Workbench 1.3. We're going to insert that into drive DF1. On our screen, the disk icon of DF1 appears. Then we want to take our pointer, move it on top of the workbench, holding in the left mouse button, drag that on top of the DF1 picture. A requester will then appear. Hit continue as the information is correct, and the reading, writing, and verifying process will go on to make a copy of the disk in one pass. When it's done, it will inform us the disk copy is finished and the same rename process as before is used. To format, insert a blank into DF1. Taking the pointer, highlight the disk, move the pointer up to the menus, choosing from disk the initialize menu, releasing the button. A requester appears. Hit continue. Hit continue again, and the formatting process continues for the 79 tracks. Inform us in the end when it is initialized and naming the disk empty. To install the printer driver, put the pointer over the Workbench disk. Double-click with the left mouse button twice quickly. That opens up the Workbench window. Move the pointer to the Utilities drawer. Double-click again with the left mouse button. That opens up the Utilities window. Move the pointer to the Install Printer. Double-click with the left mouse button to open up the Install Printer. A screen appears. At the top of the screen, a requester will come up asking you to insert your Extras 1.3 disk into the drive. Insert that into the drive. And it will list all the available printers that can be used for your system. Check your Enhancer 1.3 manual to choose the printer that is correct for your system. When you have it, type it onto there and hit your return key. It will inform you what it's doing, and when it has completed, the Workbench screen returns again. Move the pointer to the upper left corner of the Utilities drawer into the bullseye and press the left mouse button once. Now move the pointer on top of the Preferences drawer, double-clicking the left mouse button quickly, opening up the Preferences window. Moving the pointer to the printer icon, double-clicking with the left mouse button to open up the printer choices within Preferences. Move the pointer to the arrow up, choosing Epson Q, which is the correct printer for the 24-pin printer that I have. Click OK. Click Save, and those settings will be saved onto your disk. Again, close the window, the bullseye in the upper left corner. To set the date and time, double-click on the workbench icon with the left mouse button, opening up the workbench window. Move the pointer to the Preferences drawer, double-clicking with the left mouse button to open up the Preferences window. Move the pointer to the Preferences, double-click onto the Preferences icon. When the preference screen appears, move the pointer to the upper left corner to the date and time. Choose the correct date, month, year, and time that is appropriate for you. For instance, click on the 2 with the left mouse button. By inserting the down arrow, it moves the numbers down. In the same way, clicking on the 9, clicking on the down button moves the numbers down again. Same way with the month, and the same procedure with the year. Same thing applies to the time. Clicking on the left mouse button to highlight. And then finally, when you have put the correct date and time in, move your pointer over to the Save, click with the left mouse button, and those settings will be saved onto your disk. If your computer locks up or the pointer won't move, or you see a flashing red Guru meditation sign, then it's time to reboot your system.
I am the Guru. Give me your money and I will give you peace. Surrender the reins of your bank account to me and I will give you salvation. The Guru is returning to meditation now.
This is not the Guru that we were speaking about. But to get rid of him or any other problem like that, you want to learn to reboot off the keyboard by pressing the Control, the left A, and the right A keys simultaneously to restart and reset the computer. Again, please read your manual and use as reference and as a companion to anything we're going over here on the tape. You'll find there may be very many useful and practical things to learn, and you may even be as ecstatic as this young woman appears to be as she peruses through her manual. The Amiga is a very user-friendly computer, using a point-and-click system, using the mouse like it is a 2-button TV remote control. The left button being the selection button on the mouse, and the right button being the menu choice. The pointer on screen is moved around by moving the mouse correspondingly. The workbench is the Amiga's user-friendly system using pictures or icons. There are 5 types: disk, drawer, tool, project, and trash can. We can open up the workbench in one of 2 ways. We can highlight it with the left mouse button selection, moving up to the menu and choosing Open from the workbench menu. That will open up the workbench window. Or we can put the pointer on top of the workbench and double-click with the left mouse button to open up the window directly. The window displays the contents of the disk. You can move things around on screen by placing the pointer on top of a drawer or disk, dragging it to where you will, releasing the button, as in this example, into the trash can. To move it back again, double-click the trash can. When the drawer appears, click with the left mouse button, holding it down and dragging it back to its original position. Then we will close the trash can window by placing the pointer into the upper left corner into the bullseye. clicking with the left mouse button once. The window has a number of gadgets that are very useful. First the title, then the drag bar. Holding down the left mouse button allows you to move the window anywhere you care to on screen. The lower right corner is the sizing gadget. Holding the left mouse button allows you to enlarge the window or decrease the size of the window. When the contents are more than the window can display, the scroll bars on the right and the lower left allow you to move the contents around within the window. Again, to size it, hold the left mouse button. As you move it, you can choose the size of the window that you will. I'm resizing it to show all the contents. On the left is your gauge, your empty and full gauge, to show your disk capacity of that particular window. In addition, on the upper right corner of the window is a front to back gadget. When you have more than one window current on the screen, you can put one in the front and one in the back. And finally, in the upper left corner is the close gadget. By putting the pointer in the center of what I call the bullseye there and pressing the left mouse button, it closes the window. The workbench is also made up of screens, each one having its own resolution, palette, a number of colors up to 4096. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of the notepad, the Say Speech Synthesizer, the preferences, and the CLI or the shell. To access the notepad, double-click on the workbench icon, move your pointer to the Utilities drawer, double-click to open. In the upper left corner of the Utilities window is the notepad icon. Double-click on that to open it. The notepad is a simplified word processor, allowing you that capability that comes with the system at no extra cost. I'm going to enlarge that window to a full screen. And as you see up in the top, accessing the menus, you have all the menus necessary to utilize as a word processor. I'm choosing Diamond 20 font to use, and I'll just type something in to illustrate the capabilities. Just type on the keyboard till the message is finished, and I'm going to save this onto one of the formatted blank disks that we had done previously. So I'll choose Project, I'll choose Save As, I'll type in DF1: to signify that I want the disk that's in the external drive, and I'll name the note Amigas. Hit the return key, and the note will be saved on drive DF1 into the empty disk that we had formatted previously. Now that that's over, from the project, choose Quit, and there in the empty drawer we should have the Amiga's note. To verify that, let's close these windows, double click on the empty drawer, and there is the Amiga's note we prepared in Notepad. To illustrate how to delete a file, drag that over the trash can, releasing the button. Highlight the trash can, which opens the lid, go to the top menus, choose Empty Trash from the disk. That has now eliminated that file. To verify that, double click on the trash can to see there is nothing within that window. To access Say Speech, double-click on the Utilities drawer, then move the pointer down to the Say Speech, double-click on that. Two windows will appear. One offering options to us, the bottom being an input window to enter your text. Let's say we wanted to change the pitch of the voice. Type in -P 300, hit return, then type in me and my Amiga. Hit return, and the computer speaks to us. Kind of a wild Scandinavian voice there. Let's change it one more time. Changing the speed to a slower speed. -S 50, hit return, type in me and my Amiga, Hit return, and you get some interesting voices. Hit return to exit from there. Next is Preferences, a tool that allows you to see and customize many of the features and settings of your Amiga. To access Preferences, double-click on the Preferences drawer within the workbench. Move the pointer to the Preferences icon, double-click on that, and your initial Preferences screen will then come up. Within the Preferences are a number of settings. On the lower area are the 4 colors of the workbench screen, which you can set or change as to the way you care to. The orange square encloses the current color. By moving the R, G, and B for red, green, and blue sliders, you have a choice out of 4,096 colors to choose for each color. Clicking on the white, moving the sliders allows us to change that. Clicking on the black allows us to change that. And clicking on the final 4th color allows us to change that. To reset back to your original colors, just click on Reset. The text gadget allows 60 to 80 column text and is usually used when you're using a television set with it. Interlace is for video work, doubling the horizontal lines. This gadget moves the location of the screen around, also again usually for video applications. This controls the width of the mouse as you're using it. The edit pointer allows you to customize your own pointer to the way you want to do it. Click Clear to clear the screen. Again, we're choosing from 4 colors. I'm going to change that first color. Begin by clicking the left button down and in a sense painting on the screen. Making the first initial C, picking a different color, highlighting that a little bit, picking the black color, making a P, or so it's supposed to be. Picking the gray color, but then modifying that to a degree in terms of the color scheme. Filling in the P. Of course, you can do this making any pictures or designs that you care to. Set point is a way to set the pointer, which will be where you point it to actualize when you want to use the pointer for a selection. As you see, there's the pointer there. I don't think I want to keep that. I'll hit cancel. Takes us back out to the Preferences window. Again, let me double click on Preferences to get back in there. Within the Preferences again, we have some other choices we can look at. The change printer we're familiar with from installing the printer earlier, as you can see up top. You can choose between a parallel or a serial connector, the size of the paper size, the margin widths, graphic design within that, graphic 1 and graphic 2. When you've decided upon what you want to do, the Use will allow you to use those settings for the session that you are currently working with. Finally, the command line interface is a means to type in direct commands similar to conventional MS-DOS systems, but an Amiga DOS. To access the CLI, double-click on the workbench icon, then moving the pointer over to the system drawer, double-clicking on that to open it up. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the CLI icon, which looks very similar to the shell icon in the Workbench 1.3. Both are means of putting direct commands into the system, the shell being an advanced version of the CLI, and what we'll use to illustrate the examples. So we'll close the system window, we'll double-click onto the shell icon, and what will open up is an Amiga shell window, which will enlarge to a full screen. And at the top is a prompt allowing us to type in the commands. If you have a background of using DOS commands, this will be a very familiar system to you. If not, you'll probably prefer to use the point-and-click system. But to illustrate, let's say we want to define a directory of the disk. Type in dir, hit return. That will list the directory of what is on the disk in drive DF0, which is our workbench disk. Let's say we wanted to go to a directory within that. Type cd for current directory. Let's choose fonts. Hit return, and that takes us to the current directory fonts. If we wanted to see what was in the fonts, we could type list. Hitting return will then give us a list of the fonts that are available within that directory. The Amiga manual details the most commonly used CLI commands. Try these examples until you feel comfortable working with the CLI. I've also included a disk utility program in the 3-disk set that is also useful employing the point-and-click system. So to get out of this, you type endcli, either ncli or nshell. Hit return, and that returns us back to our main workbench screen. I've included a 3-disk set that contains 17 separate programs for your benefit. Programs provided are public domain and shareware. If you use the program, please honor any fee request by the author. I'd like to give you a brief overview of 4 of them: ClickDOS 2, Virus X, Turbo Backup, and the Wheel of Fortune. The first thing we want to do is insert Volume 2 of Me and My Amiga into the disk drive. In addition, make sure that the tab on your workbench disk is down. As the Peruvians say, you can write all night. The first program that I want to show you is ClickDOS 2, which is an excellent file utility program, as the name implies, utilizing the point-and-click system to perform a lot of disk operating system tasks that normally would have to be performed through the CLI or the shell. So we'll double-click on the PD2 icon, and then we'll double-click on the ClickDOS 2 icon, and then we'll double-click again on the ClickDOS 2 picture. And what you'll see is the opening screen. You'll see up top a number of different functions: dir for directory, rename, copy, move, delete, new CLI, show, type, print, run, comment, protect, and edit. Underneath you see 2 windows that allow you to display the contents of 2 different devices. What we want to do first is install certain files from the ClickDOS onto the workbench disk so that we can run the program effectively. So we're going to click on DF1, these being the different device choices we can make. It will then load the information, be it the directories, subdirectories, and files that are on that disk, into the window. Then we want to load DF0 into the other window, being the workbench disk. That will load the workbench files into that window. We then want to put the arrow on the ClickDOS 2, clicking once with the left mouse button, then clicking with the right mouse button. This will then again list the directories, subdirectories, files that are within that. And we want to copy certain files over to certain areas of the workbench disk, as that is what is needed. The first we're going to copy is the one called spool. So we'll put the pointer over that, clicking once with the left mouse button, and we're going to put that into the C directory where the commands are kept, spool being a command for the printer function of this particular program. Then we're going to put our arrow over the C, click once with the left mouse button, then the right mouse button to get us into the C directory. Then we're going to move the arrow up to copy, and by clicking copy, it's going to copy the spool file into the C directory file. So I click copy. This is an easy way to copy files between disks. Very nice, simple system. When that is copied, then, as you can see on the left part of the windows here, this will take us one up. If I click once with the left mouse button it takes me back up from the C directory back up to where I was originally. The next file we're going to copy is the ClickDOS startup file. I'm going to click once on that. That's going to go in the S directory. Click with the left mouse button on that, then the right mouse button. Then we're going to click copy, and that will copy that file onto there. Once these files are copied, then we can go ahead with the next sequence that I wanted to show you. What I want to show you is how to print out the documentation for all the programs that are on the 3 disks. And we're going to use that by utilizing the ClickDOS and the print function, which is why we had to copy the spool file over. So we're going to click on the left mouse button here for this part of the program, just to illustrate again. As you can see, the programs themselves are named in the goldish lettering. Within that, each one of those is a document file that you can print out. So first we're going to print out the ClickDOS2 document file. Placing the left mouse button there, clicking once, clicking with the right mouse button, bringing us back to where we were before. Going down to clickdos2.doc. .doc standing for the document file. We'll then click that with the left mouse button once. We'll go up here and click on to print. Now this will print out the documentation on this file, which you can use as a manual to help you with this particular program. So it's going to print that out right now. We can then use this procedure to print out all the different documentation for the different programs. Choose the ones you feel you might want to use and print out the documentation. Just want to show you a couple other things about this program before we move on. It has the ability to show pictures. I'm going to load a picture into drive DF1 on a disk. Then I'm going to choose DF1 from that requester. And I'm going to choose this particular picture, Andy 736, clicking once with the left mouse button, then clicking on the show. This allows you to view different IFF files, different digitized pictures. This particular picture that I'm going to be showing you is a picture I digitized from a Christmas card of my 2 nephews. I digitized it, made it into a brush, and actually made a little animation out of it that I featured on some cartoons I gave them during the Christmas season. And there it is. So you have the ability to show pictures, a very nice feature of this particular package also. So now we're going to exit out of this. One other thing before we go. Up in the upper right corner, this particular symbol over here, if you press it, it will shrink the program to remain up top, active while you're doing other activities. Another excellent feature of the program. We're going to close that out. Close out ClickDOS2. Next, I'd like to show you Virus X. Double-click on the Virus X icon. Virus X is a program that checks all your disks to see if there's any current viruses on them. An excellent, excellent safeguard against a serious problem. I just double-click onto the Virus X. Hopefully you've already printed out the documentation on it, as explained earlier. So we'll double-click. And what it does is check the disks in both drives to see if there is any virus present. That's simple. Again, that will remain resident, similar to the other program I just showed you. Thereby, whenever disk you enter into the system, it will check for the virus. And finally, the last program, I'm going to close that out also. Finally, the last program is the Turbo Backup. I'm going to double-click on that icon. Opens up the Turbo Backup screen. Double-click onto the Turbo Backup. And this is another backup utility program allowing you to back up disks differently than the way I showed you originally with the 1-drive or a 2-drive system. This is your DF0. Clicking on that once with the left mouse button makes that the source. If you're going to have DF1 as a destination, click once, click twice, that becomes your destination drive. Then all you do is insert your original into the source, your blank into the destination, press start, and it goes through the process, reading each track, writing and verifying, allowing you an on-screen display of the whole process. Once it's completed, Click on Quit to get out. Close your turbo backup. Close your PD2. Next, insert the PD3 disk into the disk drive, as this contains the Wheel of Fortune. As I promised in the beginning of the tape, you will win at the Wheel of Fortune. When the PD3 icon comes up, double-click, and then we're going to double-click onto the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune window opens up for us, and double-click onto the WOF, Wheel of Fortune. The game will begin to load. And we see that when it loads, the original screen will come up.
Wheel of Fortune.
And you discover that you have sound and voice both in this game.
Human will play yellow.
Human will play yellow.
I am your opponent, Amiga Blue.
Our opponent, Amiga Blue.
And I am your other opponent, Amiga Red.
And our opponent, Amiga Red. And we have our hostess up here to accompany us and spin the letters.
Are you ready to begin?
Yes. Let's start the game.
Okay. Let's play the first round.
And as you can see, it's pretty
All
self-explanatory.
right, players, we are looking for a place.
And it's just like our
Amiga
wheel.
Blue.
And you quit the game by choosing Quit. And again, quit the game, yes.
So long. Let's play again soon.
So long, Mr. Blue, Mr. Red. Ms. Red, beg your pardon. And that takes care of the wheel.
I want my Amiga TV.
At this point of the tape, we have our hints and tips. You're probably saying to yourself, the greatest tip you could give me is how to pay for this computer that I just bought. Well, you're in luck. I'm going to give you tips on how to become your own computer consultant. There's only 3 simple steps involved. The first, learn to nod your head. The second, learn to make interesting noises as you nod your head. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yes, yes. And the third, learn to speak like Professor Irwin Corey and answer to any of the questions that you're given about the computer. I do believe that is the problem that we're discussing, but we're going to have to see in the latest update version, number 4.72, as to whether the parameters of that fit the meaning as we're discussing it in terms of the aforementioned problem. So what I would like to do is, if I may, to verify for your benefit and for all the benefits of humanity and mankind, if you follow these 3 simple steps, I can guarantee you that you will become a famous computer consultant in no time.
Here are some additional hints and tips I wanted to add also. When you're renaming something, rather than having to remove every letter with the delete key, you can press down the right Amiga key and your X key, and that will completely delete that portion for you. I wanted to show you the snapshot command, which is used to secure a location in a window when you move an icon. I move that icon over to there, I go up to the special menu, choose snapshot, and that then snapshots that to that location. The same way if I move the empty drawer over to here and I snapshot it, I can also size the window and then snapshot that size so that when I double click it again, that would be the new size of the window. If I close that, double click it again, the window and the icons are now snapshotted into those locations. In addition, if you want to drag or snapshot more than one icon at one time, hold down your Shift key then press with the left mouse button, in this case on the Utilities, System, Preferences, Shell. Then I can drag all 4 of these at one time. This allows you the option of multiple icons being moved with that Shift key. I wanted to go over some other commands within the Workbench window that I hadn't discussed earlier. The discard command. Let's open up the empty window, highlight the shell, and go to the discard. That's another way of deleting a file as opposed to putting it into a trash can. Gives you the option to double check before doing so, in the same way the trash can does, that you have to highlight it and then choose empty trash. Within the special menu, there's last error. That shows you the last error that was on the computer. There's also cleanup. Let's say I highlighted the empty here. Move these around a little bit. Went to cleanup, and that would clean up and straighten up everything within there. Now to secure that, I'd have to use the snapshot. And then finally, version shows you the current version of the Kickstart and the Workbench, which may be applicable to the software that you're using.
I want my Amiga TV.
I want my Amiga TV.
I want my Amiga TV. And I want it now.
Good evening and welcome to the news. Tonight's top story comes from the small town of Yucca Flats, Idaho. A report of a missing person. Police state neighbors of Mr. Ephraim Boggs reported his wife Marion missing for over 2 weeks. Mr. Boggs claims computer error to be the cause of his wife's disappearance. We have Mr. Boggs live via satellite. Good evening, Mr. Boggs.
Hey, Chuck, how the hell are you?
Could you possibly explain how computer error could be responsible for your wife's disappearance?
Yeah, I got one of them Amiga computers for Christmas. And, yeah, the one with the pointer system they had advertised there. You know what? I had that thing set up. I had it working real good. And Clarence, she was on that TV there. And I pushed the button, and it's gone.
Cut his mic, please. Calm him down, please.
That's it. That's the last I saw her. Where did she go? Can you tell me that, Chuck? Where did she go?
We have obtained exclusive footage of Mrs. Boggs being digitized.
Investigation into the matter continues. On the national scene, President Bush today announced there will never again be any new taxes. He did add that for a short time he will be instituting an adjustment leverage to assimilate the debt ceiling, but this is a correction, not a tax. Vice President Quayle stated he felt chiropractors should be taxed, in his opinion. On the computer scene, for the Amiga computer, Send Cash But Don't Call for Service Software International has just announced the release of its new product, Infinity, on the 3rd anniversary of its first ad featuring the immortal Available Now.
Stell dir je gemütlichen Ofen vor, dat angenehm Knistre vom Feier. A für diesen Moment zu verfeinern, Butter Extra, Triple Abrün. Ein intensiver Moment für zu genießen. Butter, Bayer wie Freier.
We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm I'm Steve Partain for Hotbox City. Whatever you paid for your computer, you paid too much. You should have called Hotbox. We've got ATs, XTs, 286s, 386s, 486s, 500s, 2500s, turbos, high-speed chromium keyboards. We've got it all. We'll beat any advertised price. As a matter of fact, we'll even beat our own price. That's Hotbox City. Call 1-800-HOTBOX. That's 1-800-HOTBOX. Right across from Arnie's old beef halves.
Tonight on The Late Show, he seemed too good to be true, and in fact he was. The other side of Ward Cleaver.
This isn't your stop, sir. I know that. It was an expensive cup of coffee. It cost me 10 cents. But when I go for a girl, money's no object.
That must have sounded pretty silly to you.
Yeah, it did. Besides, I don't like drunks.
I'm glad I met you, Steve. You're different.
Think so? What's your name?
Julie Saunders. What's yours?
Steve Clark.
You are different.
Is that you, Julie?
Yes, Aunt Cora. I'll be in a minute.
Who are you calling?
Dr. Brown. Aunt Cora's ill.
Oh, she doesn't need a doctor.
But you don't understand. She's really sick this time. I'm afraid.
There's nothing to be afraid of. She doesn't need a doctor.
But, Steve, she might die.
What's so terrible about death? We all have to die sometime.
You don't know what you're saying.
Oh, yes, I do. Listen, Julie, you said I was different, and I am. I don't figure things the way most people do. Now, take Aunt Cora, for instance. She's old. She's no good to anyone in the world. She's unhappy, and she's made you unhappy. There's no reason for her to live. So I fixed her tea last night and her grapefruit juice this morning.
You're crazy.
Don't say that. Don't ever say that again. Anyway, what's so crazy about getting rid of a useless old woman when it gives us everything we've ever wanted?
The Amiga Tech Hotline. If you have a problem or just want to share a bite, call now.
Let me enhance your chipset. Call me.
I'm always here to answer your call.
1-900-TECH-HOT.
Need a bigger hard drive? Call me.
Any question at any time, call me. I'm here to answer your calls. Call me.
Thank you, Johnny. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd first like to thank our champion, Steve Giordano, for presenting me with this Epix Battle Cruiser Simulator cap. Thank you very much for that, Steve.
You're welcome, Alex.
And now let's get on with tonight's program.
For $400, the category of the year 1985, and the answer is the president of Commodore Business Machines. Connie?
Who is Harry Copperman?
Sorry, incorrect. Steve?
Who's Jack Tramiel?
Incorrect. Bob?
Who is Max Toy?
The correct response is
Mr. Marshall Smith. Remember when you rolled in the aisles to the classic My Mother the Car? Well, now exclusively coming this fall to Amiga TV. A veritable laugh riot. My Mother the Computer?
Clean off that keyboard. It's filthy.
Oh, Mom.
What kind of pictures were you just viewing?
Oh, Mom.
Did you back up your hard drive yet?
Mom!
I want my Amiga TV.
Hi and welcome to That's Incredibly Stupid. Tonight featuring the famous cigarette flip. The following are unedited segments from the professional series tape. I no longer smoke cigarettes and no way endorse them. There are 3 sequences, 2 with sound, 1 without. Utilize the slow motion feature of a VCR to verify the authenticity of the event. These stunts are performed by a professional. My name is Chuck Petropoulos, and I'll be your host for this first My name is Chuck Petropoulos, and I'll be your host for this first in the professional tutorial series for the Amiga. Excuse me, sir. Could you spare some money so I can buy an Amiga TV?